the House of Chill. Today I'm starting the series on my house. On November 25th, 2016, we received the keys to this house, which means that on the 25th we have been here for 2 years. I know I said the 26th in previous videos, but Facebook memories reminded me that it was actually the 25th. Anyhow, I thought I would start with how we ended up here. We actually lived in another town over where we had lived for 20 years. We had bought a house that was not the greatest, and we put bucket loads of money into it trying to make it a home, but there was just way too much damage with termites and the layout of the house, the foundation. There was just no way we could ever continue living there. So my dad's dying wish was to have me live in a decent home. So shortly after he died in 2007, we started working on buying a double-wide trailer to put on the property that we already owned with the house that we were living in. We owned 6 lots, so we had plenty of room to put a brand new house on, and it was the cheapest, easiest way for us to go. So that's how we got the double-wide trailer. We bought this on a rural development loan, and I went in and we custom built this entire home. I loved this house, don't get me wrong. I loved every bit of it. It had the biggest kitchen. It was great. We had lots of memories there. But 10 years later, our mortgage had been sold 7 times. Every time our mortgage was sold, we had to pay more in fees and insurance on the mortgage loan, and the house payment just kept going up and up and up. And mind you, when we bought this house, I was still working. So the $720 house payment that we were making when we purchased the home was feasible. But 10 years later, after I got sick and no longer could work, and our house payment at the very end in October 2016 was going to be $1,200. It was way more than we could afford and actually have a life outside of paying for a house. We decided that maybe we should sell it, but we had it appraised, and our appraised value was way lower than what we owed on the house. Probably by $35,000. So, one of these reasons why it depreciated so bad was because we had the world's giant baseball built across the street from us, and I will put a picture in here to show that. And so selling the house was not an option. We lived in an itty bitty town where you have to drive miles and miles to get anywhere. There's no businesses but one in the town. There was just like a slim possibility of ever selling this house for what it was worth and for us to get out of it. So I called my mom up, and we had already seen the listing to this house. We had thought about getting it for our in-laws because their house was in pretty bad shape. But my mother-in-law passed away May in 2016, and my father-in-law did not want to move. So we already knew this house existed. We knew the listing. The following pictures will be the listing of this house. But anyhow, I talked to my mom about it. She said, I would love for you to move to town, because she had been falling a lot, having a lot of issues, going to the hospital via ambulance a lot. And it was taking me 15 minutes to get to her. So if she fell and just needed help to get up, she'd have to lay on the floor for 15 minutes for me to get there. So that was one of the biggest reasons. The second one was she wanted me to spend my inheritance while she was still alive. She wanted me to buy this home, fix it up, and eventually move her into it so I could take care of her. We all know that did not happen. But she did put down the down payment. We put down $3,000 as a down payment. And on November 25th, 2016, we got the keys to this house. Now, mind you, we seen this house twice before we decided to buy it. And it was always in the evening because that was the only time the realtor could get here. And so we kind of seen it in dim lighting and flashlight, including the third time when we worked with the gentleman that we bought it from, it was extremely dark because he works out of state. And so we had to do all of this while he was home on Thanksgiving break. In fact, he didn't even get a chance to go to the lawyer's office for when we drew up the contract because he had to go to work, or go back to work in Florida. So, long story short, we got the keys, and our house will be ours in 2.5 years. We got it on a 4-year, 3-month contract, so not even quite 4.5 years. So we've been here 2 years, so 2 years and 3 months, the house will be ours. That was one big selling feature. We bought it for $19,900. It was a very, very cheap price for this home. Although we didn't know a lot of things that we would soon find out when we got the keys on November 25th. And I will talk about that later. But right now, the next following pictures are actually the listings from the website from when we looked at the realtor and found this house on the website. Now, if you look at some of these pictures, they look really odd, especially the bathroom upstairs, where it shows a very warped wide span of it to show that the toilet had literally froze and busted, and porcelain went through the plaster in the wall behind it. And in the bathroom downstairs, you also do not see the toilet because it was also busted. In my daughter Ariel's room, you didn't see the water damage in there. A lot of other things that I will get into later on in the series. But for right now, so we got the keys, and we had a few things that absolutely, positively had to be done before we could move in the house. Number one, the porch that I'm standing in right now was about ready to fall off the house, literally. There was a humongous crack that ran right there. You can see where the boards were warped from being wet, because there was hardly anything holding it up. So because of the layout of the house with the shower, which you'll see later on in the series, we needed both doors in order to operate this house. So first thing, my husband shored up this porch and made it all level in a decent place that we're not going to fall through the floor. Then day one, my daughter and I ripped out that nasty, ugly purple carpet that was in the living room. Not only was it the most hideous color on the face of the earth, it stunk. These people that lived here before had animals, and they did not clean up after them, and the carpet just reeked, and we had to remove it. Then there was Ariel's room. The gentleman that we bought the house from, when he first bought it, the attic windows leaked. He fixed those, but he did not fix the water damage in Ariel's room, which between her two windows, the entire wall was completely ruined with water damage. So day one, we came in and we fixed that. We tore that all down. We thought it'd be the easiest. It took us 2 days to get all that plaster down. The plaster that was wet was real easy to come down. The plaster lower that did not have water damage was not. Sheetrocked it, got that all good to go. Then my husband started in on the plumbing. These people moved out and just left the house. Now, see, when we moved out of our house, we emptied the hot water heater, emptied all the water lines, so nothing would freeze or break. But the people that foreclosed on this house obviously didn't care. And the mortgage company had brought in a weatherizing crew. There was these little orange stickers everywhere that said that all the plumbing and whatnot had been weatherized March 2011. And they even stuck one on the broken toilet. I don't know what they weatherized, but everything was busted. So my husband went through and changed out all the plumbing one by one. He had changed one pipe, turn on the water, see another leak, put in another pipe, repeat for like 3 or 4 days. Then we had to do some rewiring. This house was wired still with the old knob and tube wiring. There was a circuit box out on the back porch that had several circuits in it, and my husband thought it was kind of strange that there wasn't very many circuits in there. One was for the furnace, one was for the washer and dryer, and one was for the refrigerator, I believe. And that the electrical box in the shower, which I'll show a picture here somewhere, actually was still alive. And it was still using old levers, which I will show a picture of that because those are kind of interesting. So we had to completely rewire a lot of things in order to move in. I will never forget that day when Daniel called me and said, we have electricity, and me and the girls hopped in the car and we ran up here and we pulled into the driveway right out there and seen the upstairs light on. And I will show a picture here where we saw the lights on, and we all three started to cry because we knew that that was our first step into getting closer to moving in. So in between packing at home and helping Daniel here, he worked from the time he got off work until dark, until we got electricity. And every weekend on the electricity and plumbing, I painted. My mom told the girls told the girls Merry Christmas and bought the paint for their rooms. Ariel's room had to be repainted because we had to fix the water damage. Kayla's room was baby pink and she just didn't like it. And so we painted those 2 rooms, and then, oh Lord, did I have to paint downstairs. If you noticed in those listings, the living room was hideous, and there was no way I was moving into this house with that living room. The color I chose that is currently in there right now is not the color I would choose now. There will be future renovations in both the living room and dining room, so that color will change. But I had to get rid of the theater curtains and mismatched wallpaper. It drove me nuts. So I spent the time in that month before we moved in painting the living room, the dining room, and the kitchen. And that is counting the cabinets and the walls and all that. So I will now show you pictures from when we first got here until we moved in. saw was all the improvements that we made from November 25th to December 22nd when we actually moved in. A lot of them you couldn't see. You couldn't see my husband rewiring things, doing the plumbing and all of that. But pretty much that was what we did in that 1 month period to make the house livable so we could move in. In part 2, I will go with what we did the first year that we lived here and show you all the renovations from then. So keep your eye out for part 2. Thank you for watching.